Hi, I'm Naren King, the co-founder of the Crystal Castle and Shambhala Gardens. Welcome to the Jewel of Byron. I was selling crystals out of a backpack in Sydney in 1985, and I came up to Byron for a holiday. I was on the beach, I heard about this place, some friends were having a party here, a New Year's Eve party at the end of 85. Came here, saw this strange round building with a pyramid on the roof and 4 wings on an empty property with nothing here, just bare, maybe 3 trees. Came to the party, started dreaming, and decided I wanted to move from Byron and start a life here and make something extraordinary out of this place. So I called my accountant, my friend, on January the 1st, got him out of bed after New Year's Eve and said, help, I've got this crazy idea. We went to 5 banks. They all said, don't be ridiculous. You're running a business out of a backpack. You don't have any assets. You don't have any deposit. No one's going to help you. But anyway, we found the 5th bank manager who said, okay, he sounds like some kind of Indiana Jones searching for crystals in South America. We'll back this guy. So we just launched ourselves into it. And then I headed to South America to actually make a real business and do the first crystal trip. Cash strapped to my leg, running around Brazil and Uruguay and buses and military aircraft, any way I could get around to the mining areas. Found some crystals, found some connections, made friends, and in those early days did the first big shipment of crystals and big geodes and big crystals to Australia. And I still have friends and associates that I buy from now after 37 years, always searching for the next amazing crystal coming out from these areas. And then we got this crystal shipment in here, the first crystal shipment, and we had crystals all over the grass and rose quartz coming out, and we didn't know what to do with the rose quartz, so we just lined the paths with rose quartz and went, oh, that looks pretty cool. And people loved it. Even in those days, the people that heard about us started to come and see crystals in the garden and rose quartz. So it kind of started small and it kind of grew from there. And then my wife and partner Sono decided to create the Shambhala Gardens. So that's when we started looking for giant statues and bigger crystals to make the grounds here something extraordinary and unique in the world. And that took us to Java, to Muntalan. We're driving down a driveway and we saw the giant back of this huge Buddha. We said to them, is that for sale? They said, well, actually it is, because a Chinese temple in Medan had commissioned them to make a giant Buddha. And this Buddha, they found a little blemish, a little fault in the stone. They said, so this would not be acceptable to the temple. It means you can have it if you want it. So that's how the Buddha came to be available, and we brought the Buddha out here. This area here was an old muddy dam that didn't hold water. So we spent a year creating the section, bringing excavation and drainage, creating the amphitheatre so everyone could enjoy, along with other statues, Ganesha and Nandi the bull, Lakshmi the goddess of abundance, Garuda and Vishnu, Avalokiteshvara, and the giant Buddha that's almost 4 meters high, weighs 13,000 kilos. We had a huge slew crane set up in the middle of the amphitheatre, and he was lifted up in the air with ropes and straps and then placed gently on his spot, his magical spot inside the Buddha pond that had been created for him. And he's known as the Blessing Buddha because of this gesture where he blesses all who come. And then we created a Rainforest Walk. 18 years ago, we did a joint venture with Rainforest Rescue and created an example of what you can do when you regenerate this great big scrub that it used to be. There was an old track full of weeds, and we cleared that and started planting. We had community planting days, different sections of the rainforest where 50 to 100 people, locals, would come and they'd learn about planting and would have a day together planting this rainforest. And in the middle of the Rainforest Walk then, we created the bush tucker track with all the traditional indigenous plantings of the area, which has also inspired lots of people to do regeneration, create rainforests in their own places. From those early days when we started pulling out rose quartz and lining the paths in the gardens, it just became obvious that we could create a place of magic by having some of the most amazing crystals in the world out in the landscape, in nature, on display for people to enjoy. Because these crystals create awe. They're the most beautiful and some of them the largest crystals in the world. We started gathering crystals, placing them in the gardens. We had some quite large crystals, you could say. But about 6 years ago, I realized we had to get some really giant crystals. And so I journeyed to Uruguay, where we found, first of all, the giant guardians, these 20,000 kilo, 5 meter high amethyst, smoky quartz, jasper and agate geodes, which are now placed here as one of the defining crystals of this place. But they are the largest and tallest geode ever found in the world. Absolutely awe-inspiring. I was on this trip in Uruguay. We're buying these giant crystals, remortgaging everything so we could acquire them. And my daughter, I turn around and she's sitting in another geode saying, "Dad, everyone's dream with crystals is to sit in a cave. You have to get this one too." Long story short, we brought 2 giant crystals home, the giant guardians and the Enchanted cave. It's got 1 million amethyst crystals inside it, and it's known as the largest amethyst cave ever found in the world. Then there was the job of bringing them back. We had to have them mounted on steel bases, prepared for shipment, bring in heavy moving equipment, pack these multiple 3 shipping containers, put them on a ship and bring them here to the Crystal Castle. When the crystals arrived, we went to the unpacking station to supervise it, and the Enchanted cave was so heavy, it embedded itself in the base of the container. So they brought larger and larger forklifts and eventually ended up pulling the entire container across the warehouse floor because it wouldn't come out. So they had to bring in a mob of guys with hydraulic lifts and chains and lift it up, and finally after a 6-hour period managed to pull this giant stone out of the container. And of course, people ask with the Enchanted cave, how did we get it in this building? Well, of course, we put it there and then we had to build a building around it. That was the trick. Then we had to build steel cages around the guardians to lift them into place after incredible engineering plans were done to mount them in the ground. The guardians represent really a major part of our intention here, which is to create awe. Because they are full of awe and people stand and they're mesmerized by this magnificent and beautiful creation of nature. And now they stand here in the Byron hinterland, and as the mayor at the time said, they represent beacons of hope for humanity. One day, a couple of years later, we realized that what we really needed here was a crystal cave that everybody could just easily sit in. So then I went with my daughter Ayla back to Uruguay, and we found what we call the dragon egg. And this is royal Uruguayan amethyst, bright purple, strong violet, an entire cave that you can easily just sit in, rest, and be in awe of these incredible 120 million year old crystals. Pretty much everybody who comes to the Crystal Castle sits in this ancient crystal cave. And of course, there's nowhere else in the world you can do that. When we went to find this crystal that everyone could sit in, we also found one that they had carved the top off like a lid and lifted like an ancient treasure chest. And so that's the last giant crystal we brought in here. It's sitting here in the gardens, looking like an amazing treasure chest that everyone can enjoy. And over the years, we found one day there was an amethyst geode discovered that when open looked like butterfly wings. So we had it mounted on this stand, brought it here, and over a few more years found different sizes of those. So we created a beautiful wing wall with a magnificent mural behind with these wings that everyone can enjoy. One of the most beloved of the crystals here has a nickname, Rosie. And Rosie is a 4,000 kilo almost 2-meter high giant block of rose quartz in a peaceful area, and a reflexology walk goes around it so you can have this beautiful, healing, relaxing experience around Rosie. Many years ago, we became friends with a Tibetan Buddhist monk and teacher, Geshe Tenzin Lorempa Demchok. And we cooked up this plan to invite the Dalai Lama here, and we thought we need to build a little stupa if he ever comes here. So he invited us to his home, the Dalai Lama's home in India. We journeyed there, my family and I. We met the Dalai Lama, sought his blessings for the project. We were requested to build a particular type of stupa. It's called a Kala Chakra stupa, and this is the 7th one. It grew from a small idea of a stupa to a giant 9-meter high, extraordinary creation. Then we journeyed for 3 times. I went with my son 3 times to Nepal to seek artifacts, to have things made for this stupa. We received the Dalai Lama's cushion, relics from the ancient Buddhists, 54 solid brass prayer wheels crafted in a workshop that's been building them for 350 years. They took 1.5 years to hand beat the beautiful brass prayer wheels. Each one is filled with 170,000 prayers, Om Mani Padme Hum. We got plans on rice paper, 1 meter long, hand-drawn with pencil, which we had to convert to have it engineered. And we built this stupa here under the guidance of the Gyuto monks of Tibet, who came and did the artwork and carved it and did all the ceremony. And we had the community come and all put things into the stupa, things of value to them, things sacred to them, things that represented the future hope and dreams of humanity. So a project like this can often take a quarter century from idea to completion, but we got it all built with community support in 3 years. And then we had a grand opening with 1,000 people in this amphitheater. The Dalai Lama sent his representative, Gyuto monks held the ceremony, and the Dalai Lama's representative said this stupa is of significance and of benefit to Byron, Australia and the world. The heart of the Crystal Castle is the team that works here. An incredible group of almost 50 locals who come together, who toil every day making beautiful gardens, preparing the gorgeous crystals for viewing, that make nourishing food, that help people choose gorgeous crystals and jewelry to take away from here as part of their journey. It's an amazing team that works together in a family atmosphere. It's inspiring each other, that's supporting each other, that is always looking for the next step in how to make this place more magical and more beautiful and more wonderful. Our whole family has been involved from the very beginning. They've been almost like dragged around the world on expeditions since they were 2 years old, finding artifacts and giant crystals and meeting the Dalai Lama and finding extraordinary things. They've all been involved, they've all contributed in their own way to making this place of magic and wonder. The Crystal Castle experience is a completely unique, iconic, inspiring and enriching experience that is available nowhere else in the world and can never be replicated. From the crystals themselves, the nature, the gardens, the statues, the daily experiences, the World Peace Stupa, the whole experience. It's also the very location of the Crystal Castle. We're 20 minutes from Byron Bay, which is of course a world iconic destination now, in the beautiful hinterland, overlooking this magnificent valleys, beautiful subtropical nature. So even a cup of coffee on the deck here is a magical experience. Crystal Castle and Shambhala Gardens has been our life's work, and we hope you enjoy it.